Welcome to the Robinson Twins Present Nature Observations. In this installment we'll be looking at two trees that have national parks, and actually people visit from around the world to see them in California. That's the coast redwood and the giant sequoia. Now some people have seen one and think it's the other, or they get them confused, or they see a tree that's neither one of them and think they saw one when they didn't. There are other trees with red bark besides redwoods. So we decided we should make this video to help people tell the difference between the two trees and where to go see them. So let's go to it. First, some basics. The giant sequoia and coast redwood are part of a group of plants called conifers, those that have their seeds inside of a cone, and that includes pines, which everybody's familiar with, but also fir, cedar, cypress, juniper, spruce, and yew. All have their seeds in cones. So here is a sequoia cone. It's about the size of a very large chicken egg, and there's a small branch next to it. Its leaves are needles that lie flat around the twig. And here you can see me holding it in my hands in front of the General Grant tree, which is the second largest tree on Earth inside Kings Canyon National Park. There is the cone of the redwood. It's about the size of my thumb. And those needles go out like feathers. Here's the bark of the coast redwood. You can see it's red, just like you'd expect it to be, and it's fibrous. It can be up to a foot thick. Here's the fibrous bark of the sequoia tree, and it does sound kind of hollow. This can be as much as 2 feet thick before it reaches the wood. So here's a sequoia in better sunlight so you can really see the color. In this one we have two small redwoods on the left and compared to a sequoia on the right. Now let's look at a map where you can find these trees in California. The coast redwood range is shown in green. The giant sequoia range is shown in red. You can see the ranges do not overlap. So the coast ranges are the closest mountains to the ocean, and that's where coast redwoods are found north and south of San Francisco Bay. To the east is the Great Central Valley, the longest valley in the lower 48 states, and to the east of that is the Sierra Nevada, which form the valley, and they're the highest mountains and the longest mountain range in the lower 48 states, and that's the only place you find giant sequoias. Looking at some of the major land set aside to protect these trees, there's Redwood National and State Parks at the north end of the range, several smaller parks as you go south, and then there's Muir Woods National Monument just across the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco. South of San Francisco is Big Basin State Park in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and then in the South Coast Range, Pfeiffer Big Sur State Park. In the Sierra Nevada, we have the Calaveras Big Trees is a state park that protects giant sequoias, and then Yosemite, Kings Canyon, and Sequoia National Parks all have sequoia groves, with of course Sequoia National Park having the most and the largest specimen, the General Sherman tree. South of Sequoia is the Sequoia National Forest, which has a trail of 100 giants. Another interesting thing about redwoods is that they will sprout from a stump. You can actually cut a redwood down, and the stump will produce new branches like this is doing, and it will continue to grow. So now we're looking at the base of the General Sherman tree. According to this sign, it's the largest volume. It's not the highest tree, it's not the oldest, it's not the widest, but if you put its height and width and other factors together, it has the greatest volume of any sequoia tree on Earth. So this chart here shows which ones are wider, which ones are older, but this one's the biggest. At one of the overviews the Park Service provides for visitors to the Sequoia National Park, you can see how big the General Sherman tree is by the bricks that are laid out here. Once you learn the characteristics of both trees, it's very easy to tell them apart, and especially their range, because they don't overlap. But there is a tree that sometimes causes people trouble, and it's because it does have red wood, but it's not a redwood. It's not in that species. It's the incense cedar. So this is a tree that has red wood and red bark, but it is not a coast redwood. It doesn't get as tall. And it's not a giant sequoia. It doesn't get as thick. This is an incense cedar, and it can be found in Yosemite Valley and other places in the Sierra and the Coast Range of California. And when you look at its leaves, they are scales, and the twigs look like they've been ironed flat. The cones are really different too. They have two seeds, and when they split open, it looks like a duck's bill. So we want to make sure that people who come to visit California to see the big trees, like the coast redwood or the giant sequoia, actually see what they came to see. And actually a lot of Californians don't know the difference between these two trees either, so don't feel bad if you don't. But recently I saw a video by a British couple who are visiting Yosemite Valley for the first time. And at one point the man says to the lady, "I think we've seen our first redwood," and he aims the camera at an incense cedar. So I wanted to yell at the camera, the screen, but of course it wouldn't have made any difference. But they saw an incense cedar, and Yosemite National Park does have sequoias in the Mariposa Grove, Tuolumne Grove, and Merced Grove, but Yosemite Valley itself does not have any giant sequoias, but it does have incense cedars. Here's the cone. As I said before, it looks like a duck's bill. Alright, so we want to make sure, after you watch this video, that if you do come to California to see the coast redwood or giant sequoia, that you really do see those species of trees, because they really are spectacular. So here's a brief summary of the differences between the coast redwood and the giant sequoia. Feel free to stop the video if you like and study this over. The coast redwood, scientific name Sequoia sempervirens, which means always green. And the giant sequoia is Sequoia dendron giganteum, which basically means a sequoia tree that's gigantic. We'll have this chart and a list of places where you can see coast redwoods and giant sequoias in the description. Now let's look at the largest specimens in each of the big national parks in the Sierra. Yosemite National Park has 3 groves, Mariposa being the one most visited, with the grizzly giant the largest specimen. Kings Canyon has 3 groves, and the Grant Grove is the most visited, with the General Grant tree the largest. Sequoia has the largest grove at Giant Forest, with its largest specimen, the General Sherman tree. So now that you know the difference, you can confidently come and visit California and know that you're seeing a coast redwood, the tallest tree on Earth, and a giant sequoia, the most massive single-stem tree on Earth. Both are in California. So we'll be posting videos in the future about our experiences visiting both the coast redwood and the giant sequoia. Keep an eye out for those. And if you like this sort of content, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. We'll see you in the next one.